Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore podcast. What a fantastic intro video that was from Mark. We're about to relive one of the best nights as Newcastle United fans ever. I'm your host, Chris. I'm joined back from the dead by the Welsh wizard who enjoyed many libations last night watching that game. And the stat man has jumped in the chair as well. How are we doing, boys? You okay?
Good evening, mate.
How are you?
I'm very good, mate. I went to the game and I wasn't even drunk. I wasn't even hungover.
Pathetic. Pull yourself a fan.
Do you know, honestly, I've got a Glaswegian dad and I went to St. James's Park and I don't feel rough. I'm going to get bitch slapped by somebody. I'm pretty certain about that.
Poor
I really let the side down. But thankfully, we didn't let anybody down last night. We're going to get stuck right into this in a minute. Just before we do, a little reminder to everybody, if you're new to the channel, if you've just discovered us, welcome on board. What a great episode to come on board with. Click that button, come and subscribe. All free content with us. We don't charge anybody a penny for this. We just love talking about this Mint Club and what a time it is to talk about this Mint Club. And we're live tonight, so jump in the comments as normally a few of our regulars do. We've got a couple of you already itching to go in there. We've got the new Monkey, evening to you, mate. We've got Chrissy Barbecue. Oi, lads, my God, what a game last night. Absolutely. BT's in the house as well. We're going to get stuck right into this, lads. So obviously the first topic is just tell me, Ma, really, we won't be home for tea because we're going to fucking Wembley. What a chant. And I must admit, young Dan will be joining us soon, bless him. I don't know what story he's breaking, but he will jump in the bottom corner soon, I'm sure. The old roving reporter that he is. But obviously I was lucky enough to go to the game last night, courtesy of PK, much to these two lads' chagrin. They hate me for that. I was in level 7 in the nosebleeds. And I mean, the atmosphere before the game, I mean, I've been looking to go to the new Newcastle quite a lot. You know, we were all at Fulham lads, weren't we? You know, and the atmosphere is electric, isn't it? But last night, it was so special. If you could have bottled it, you could have sold it more than that wanker from Wakey Wine sells Prime. You would have had that much of a fucking bid for it. It was just the most unbelievable atmosphere I've ever seen. I mean, everything about it, you know, the Wembley chants, the Bladen races, but weirdly enough, and you'll appreciate this, Di, as a music connoisseur, the best part was when the DJ dropped Thunderstruck by AC/DC and all the scarves went, and when it goes thunder, people were stamping. And I thought it was in a Thor movie or something, mate. Honestly, I was absolutely buzzing. I couldn't believe it. But how did you lads find it on the TV? Di, start with you. Did that come across on the telly as well, mate?
Oh, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. You could. I was watching in a pub near me, and it felt different. It felt special. You could really hear it coming through. You could hear the chants. Newcastle seems to have like this special noise, and I'm sure fans of all clubs will say the same. But every now and again, when we get really raucous, there's this like raw kind of growl almost to the crowd, and I really heard that last night in the when the whistle went, and obviously couldn't hear everything properly through the pub TV speakers, whatever, but you really heard the noise when Longstaff got that first goal, and it was special. And watching things back this morning, and the videos on Instagram, whatever, and some of the stuff that you boys have sent around were amazing. And that the best one I've seen is someone walking, or at their house is a mile or so away from the ground, and you can see the lights in the background, and you can clear as day hear "Tell me, ma," and it's like, unbelievable. It just sounded incredible. I'm so jealous of you, you bastard.
Honestly, it was something special. I mean, I was laughing, Mark, because I was trying to figure out, obviously in the nosebleeds, I had my glasses on, thank God, so I could see everything. It was like a massive game of FIFA. You could see the great view, to be fair. And I was looking down, and when DJ Shaq came out, and he was buzzing away and doing his decks and all that stuff, whether you like that or not, the kid was living his best life. I could see a pundit dancing. I couldn't figure out who it was till I got home. It was only David Ginola jumping and dancing around it. Mate, honestly, what if the night couldn't get better? David was dancing in front of St. James's Park crowd.
Mate, it was when, in fact, there was a point where they were doing the pre-match with Mark Chapman was talking to Francis Benali, and Benali was giving this answer, and the camera kind of like panned out, and it just you just stood there, and Ginola's just giving it this all by himself, while Benali's trying to make some serious football point. Ginola's giving it the dance. Oh, it was class.
Oh, mate, I love it. But Mark, what was your take? Were you the same as Di? Could you just feel that radiating through the TV, mate?
As much as I'd love to say yes, I watched it on probably a different channel, and the audio was dreadful. It was absolutely dreadful. The ground noise was turned down so much, and the commentary team was so loud you couldn't hear it. And that was the one thing looking forward to that atmosphere, and just think, well, it's my own fault for watching it where I watched it, but it was such a letdown in that regard, because I was waiting for that roar, that thing, and it was just like all I could hear was, I think it was Darren Fletcher just talking. It was big booming voice over all the noise. You're like, what have you done with this? You've just kind of, for anybody watching that around the world and stuff, it was just that was an awful part of it. But as the game progressed, obviously they must have sorted that out, because it got better. But that was the thing. I was looking forward to that, and hearing you could obviously hear Thunderstruck and stuff in the background. So I was like, God, that's, if anything to kind of get people going, that's an awesome tune.
Mate.
But it looked amazing. It didn't particularly sound amazing, but it looked fantastic.
It did look great.
Well, it was. I mean, I think the DJ was definitely on point. Not DJ Shaq. He did a good job, to be fair. It wasn't my kind of thing, but fair play to the lad. But the DJ in the ground, I mean, the tunes he was blasting out was absolutely class. We've got some comments coming in. I love the new Monkey's comment. He's going to get it neck tomorrow because he didn't turn up to work because he was that rough. I love that, Monkey. Yeah. Well done, mate. We've got Tyne Kenny from America. Yeah, wish you could have been there. She had excitement. Oh, it was unbelievable. Click subscribe if you haven't. You're a new name. We'd love to have you on board. New Monkey again is back and said the Gallagher was bouncing. The atmosphere was incredible. Carl's still buzzing. I mean, it just everywhere around the ground. I think before the game, like I say, it was just anticipation. I met up with Lee and PK and the Evermore boys. And Lee was, you know what Lee's like. Lee was nervous, you know, and as he always is, we got into the ground fairly early. PK was still dusting a couple of loco numbers off as he always does. But we got in the ground really early. And then obviously everyone was, you know, finishing their pints, and then they come in and it filled up fast, and you could just feel it in the air. You know, even in the pubs, you know, before the strawberry and stuff like that, people were just singing "Tell Me Ma, Me Ma." We were so confident that we were going to do something in the game. Obviously, the game itself, lads, we'll get into that. So we start the game. We couldn't ask for a better start, really, Di, especially for Sean Longstaff to decide to turn into fucking peak Frank Lampard out of nowhere. I mean, that the kid next to me, I turned to him and I went, "That's what he needs to do." And he went, "Exactly that." Yeah. But I did see Sean after the game say, funny enough, that Trippier had yanked him in training and said, "Listen, calm yourself, get in the position, pick your spot, believe in your shot." And it just made me love Kieran Trippier even more as a captain, Di. But what a finish that was, mate. That first goal, beautiful football as well, mate, wasn't it?
Exactly, mate. The build up to that, the way the kind of the sweep and move across the pitch, great feet from Bruno, kind of feeding the ball across, and great little step over and little move inside from Trippier. And Longstaff, you know, had such time and space, great, perfectly timed run, you know, great bit of composure. He's one of these people, I think, especially when he's got a chance like this, where he doesn't have to think about it. He didn't, you know, the ball came to him, one touch, bang. He didn't have time to worry about picking his spot or whatever. It was just he could turn and hit it. And I've said for a while, I'm sure I've said on here, I think Longstaff's underrated for us in the sense that he does a lot of work that goes unnoticed, and it's easy to look at him and say, well, he's missed a sitter there and did it. You know, the boy, he must, like Sean, four lungs, obviously 2 lungs. I'm still drunk, I think.
I think you might be.
Yeah, Sean Forlings. Like he was just everywhere, and I was so impressed with him, and the calmness of that first goal was amazing, and at the perfect time for it. Obviously, we just had them by the balls as soon as the first whistle went, and really got after them and pressing high. They could not get out. It was just a brilliant start and a fantastic goal. And I think what really comes across in this team, just in general, is everyone wants to do well, and everyone's kind of singing from the same hymn sheet. But I think you can visibly see how much it means to everyone, and that has really not been the case for a long, long time. And to see not only how much it means to everyone, but when, you know, Longstaff, a local boy, scores that goal, I mean, I can only imagine what that must feel like for him. And as the camera kind of like panned to him in the corner, because obviously he did that big knee slide, there's like a side angle of his celebration. I don't know if you've seen it. Like, he is so pumped when he does the knee slide and he jumps to like slide down on his knees. I feel like the angle, he looks like he's jumped like 6 feet off the ground. He's like, my proper leaps up and kind of goes. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, like, don't hurt yourself, son. But yeah, it was just an amazing moment. And Well, yeah, what a feeling! Like you said, with the atmosphere, if you could bottle that moment and experience that all the time, you'd be a happy man. It was just a fantastic feeling.
Absolutely. And Mark, just to back up what Di's saying there, obviously Sean then pops up with a second beautiful football. Again, great ball by Miggy. And again, he finishes with a plum. But I mean, we were looking at some of his stats before. I mean, he's got an 83% passing percentage on there. He's kind of had 4 ground duels. He's won 1. He's won 2 aerial duels, 4 interceptions. He just seemed to be everywhere, Mark, didn't he? In that game, even when it got a bit dicey, Sean didn't go hiding, did he? He was winning tackles. I thought he set the standard for everybody. I thought Sean last night, and I was so buzzing, Mark, that the crowd jumped up. He's one of our own, Sean Longstaff. He must have grown 4 foot in height hearing that, man.
Absolutely.
My God.
You think for that to happen, and we I think we touched on it probably the other night, didn't we? About him just getting into those positions, because he sort of drifts into those positions in the box and gets himself into goal scoring opportunities just to calm himself down, get his head over the ball and keep the ball down. I think I even said that to PK outside locals, like just before I left to go home, that's exactly what he did. He kept himself calm when he got into those positions, and that feeling just must be meant. And genuinely, you can't think of a better player in that scenario to have got those goals, because of what it meant to the club, because it's the first final since '99, because it's the first League Cup final since 75, 70. I was going to say 76. So I got myself. It was 75, 76 a season.
You're the stat man. Come on, you can't get the stats wrong. You're the stat man. We're the gobshites. Come on.
And when you've gone through so much crap like the club have gone through over the last 14 years,
and Sean as well. Sean's had a lot of shit as well.
Yeah,
individually.
He has,
So
and all of that together, I mean, you can't think of a better player to have been the match winner at that point. And then from that first goal, which I think he took very, very well, the little sort of dink inside from Trippier to play him in. The first touch just set it up perfectly for him to hit in the corner, and the second one just again goes into that position, perfect pullback from Miggy, just on a plate for him to sort of cipher home. It's just, I mean, the place erupted, and it was just that came through. When I talked about the pre-game stuff that didn't come through, that noise came through, and that was sensational. And then you're right, I think he set the tone, him and Bruno to start with, because I thought Bruno for the first 35, 40 minutes was absolutely brilliant. He was excellent. That the first goal when he keeps himself on his feet, because that's a free kick. If he doesn't stay up, that's going to be a free kick. But he's got the sense to stay on his feet, work that ball out wide to the right, where there's acres of space and an overlap, and it's just that shows the measure of the player in Bruno for that as well. But yeah, Longstaff was excellent. I think, like everybody else, and I know we'll come on to this second half, it massively tailed off.
We've had a few comments about the second half already. The new bookie said we were shite the second half. Ty Kenny said, let's not talk about the second half. A bit like Fight Club, I like your style. Let's not talk about the second half. But yeah, I think obviously that goal, I mean, we looked so in control, lads, didn't we? We looked so in control. I said to the kid next to me, 2-0 and these are dead. And there was 2 and I said, that's it, they're dead. Everyone around me was saying the same thing. This is it. Wembley, here we come. They're done. And then, it's a sloppy pass, isn't it, from, I think it's Willock. And Shea Adams. See, it was a great finish by Shea Adams, but just for some reason, and I don't know how you felt on the TV, lads. I know you were in the boozer dice, so it might be quite hard to tell how quiet it went, but honestly, in the ground, it was like everybody just went, woof. The atmosphere just went, and everyone was so nervous. You could hear teeth chattering, really. It was that bad, but I mean, what did you think, Dad? Did you think that rattled the lads? You think they were starting to worry about losing the game because that goal went in, or what do you think was the reason for it?
I think we've got to be realistic here. I think someone said we were shite second half. I think that's a bit harsh. I think
comes the young man.
Here he is.
Here he is.
Hello.
How are you doing, mate?
I'm not bad. How are we all tonight?
Yes, good, mate.
The Welsh Wizards in full flow, mate. So you will be next, my friend.
Fantastic.
All I was saying, I don't think we were shite second half. I just think we managed the game, and just because we're not all action on the front foot, all guns blazing all the time, it doesn't mean we played badly. I appreciate they got more into the game than we would have ideally liked, But I also think the crowd reflection is actually not a full reflection of the players. I think the players played with a lot of confidence and a lot of calmness and did the job they needed to do and saw the game out. And I think that the fans going quiet is more a reflection on the fact that we've been shit for ages. People are just panicked. It was funny, we were sat there, we were 3-0 up on aggregate, and my mate who I was watching it with is a Man United fan, and he said, "Oh, you can relax and enjoy the rest of this." I was like, "Are you out of your mind? It's only 3-0. Anything can happen, yeah." And I think when they scored that one, even 3-1, like Carl says, it was very nervy in the ground. I can believe I was nervous. I was shitting myself, and like were they going to score another 2 goals? Of course not. Only I think 2 teams have scored 2 goals against us all season, unless I'm wrong. Liverpool and Chef Wed. So
Man City scored 3.
That's true actually. All right, shut up. But the point is that in that they had that great finish, and then other than that, in 90 minutes they had 2 shots on target. Never mind scoring 2 goals, they only had 2 other shots on target. I don't think we were shy. I just thought we saw the game out really, really well. And I can understand the atmosphere dropping because I was, my arse was dropping. But it was, a fantastic thing. I can't really describe it. But yeah, I think we just were very professional in the end, saw the game out and were shithouses about it, which I thought was absolutely lovely.
I love that. Dan, just to bring you in, I think there's one thing I want to talk about the game in general, because you were there, Dan, as well, I think, weren't you? You were in the ground?
I was.
You were. I thought you would be. The referee, I mean, the lads can chip in as well. From what I could see in the ground, we'll come on to Bruno in a minute, because my initial reaction to Bruno's tackle compared to when I saw it back was, all right, okay, 2 different things. But I thought the referee was kind of responsible for that, Dan, because he let so many challenges go unpunished. And I think it got wound Bruno up, didn't it? And I think that led to the red card, Dan. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bruno actually had an all right game as a whole before he got sent out. He wasn't actually. I don't think he was that good last week, to be honest. In the first leg, I think he gave a lot of balls away. This week, as I say, okay, and yeah, he was getting fouled a lot, and as I said, then he had given his fair share of fouls away, and I think eventually, and I've looked at the red card, and it is a red card. It's accidental, but it is a red card. Yeah.
It's too heavy. It's too heavy a challenge.
Yeah, you're right. But as Dai quite rightly says, I think it was nervy in the ground. It was like it did sort of like, I don't know, like go a little bit quiet and a little bit tense, but. And I would have liked us to have, if we had a little bit more of the ball. Like we considered a lot of possession to them, a lot of second balls were going to them. But as Dai also rightly says, they didn't actually create any chances, Southampton.
Yeah. Apart from that worldie, what did they do? Did we do?
And again, they didn't even create that mind, did they? That, as you said earlier,
he created that.
So.
Yeah, ironically, that was the best pass Willock probably hit all night. That, to be fair. I'm giving him a bit of a hard time, but I think I suppose looking at our side, Mark, just to pick up on Dan's point there about Bruno. Bruno's class obviously can do no wrong, but is that something he needs to work on? Does he need to work on that mentality, not get wound up? Because there's been more than one occasion now he's got a bit wound up, and
we've seen that before. He's not got to the point of getting into that challenge, but he gets himself frustrated in games. I think he was cooking completely from the handball, the one that was given when he was fouled, and he
grabbed his face and threw him on the floor.
He goes down. When he gets fouled, he goes down and he grabs the ball, and Tierney gives the free kick to Southampton. It was a foul on Bruno, and he let it go. That he was cooking from that moment. There were another couple that weren't given. I mean, in terms of the actual red card itself, at first I thought he got the ball.
I thought he did as well.
I genuinely was like, how is that a foul? He's got the ball. And then when I saw it again, I was like, oh,
yeah, you saw it again. You went,
that's gonna hurt. That one's gonna hurt in the morning. So yeah, I don't think anybody can disagree with the decision for it being a red card. I think it absolutely was. I thought at that point when you saw it again, had the ref, because the ref had a good angle of it, had the referee gone maybe Zach can get away with this not being a red, not wanting to give a red in a semi-final. I don't know whether that would have gone through his head, and if it is a red, he'll get backed up by Vaughan, and it wasn't going to get away with that. But he'd been pretty poor throughout the night, but it didn't end up costing.
Just on Stu's comment there, Mark. Sorry, you mentioned the second half. I think we only had 29% possession in the whole second half compared to 61 in the first. Just what Stu's saying there, that Longstaff had mentioned Southampton had a new tactic, but they worked them out straight away. So that shows you good in-game management, doesn't it, by Tyndall and Howe?
From Newcastle point of view, I mean, they came out playing with sort of five at the back to start with, and it looked odd from their point of view straight away. The Southampton fans were going bananas online about it because none of them could understand why they'd suddenly changed to start off with, and it didn't work, and it showed very, very quickly. Newcastle were able to find the gaps in and around the midfield. There were huge ones all over the place, and to be fair to Jones, he changed it. He made the substitution. He brought it back to a 4, and that sort of brought Southampton back into the game. But it was an odd choice from the start for them, because I thought that just really gave the initiative to Newcastle straight from the off. And then it was about Newcastle readjusting to what Southampton were doing. And like Di said before, said you surrender an awful lot of possession. I think it's Dan, that said it. You surrender an awful lot of possession, and it was Southampton had 71% of possession in the second half. And you really can't afford to do that. And you do that against a better side, and you'll get punished. But they only had one shot on target the entire game, and that was the goal. Armstrong's, I don't think, was classed as being obviously on target despite Pope's save. I think that was an excellent bit of goalkeeping. But other than that, they created no other real chances. They were really poor in the final third, but they kept the ball, and Newcastle just kept them at bay, and it was, I guess, frustrating to watch because you just constantly a pile of Southampton players coming forward, but there were never really any danger.
No, Di, you wanted to add something to that, mate, didn't you?
Yeah, I think there's this kind of myth almost going around that the best way to kind of get at us is to crowd us in midfield, especially when the game's tight. Sheffield Wednesday did, to be fair to them, did it really, really well, and they executed it perfectly. The problem with that is if you don't execute it perfectly, you leave spaces elsewhere, and you can get caught out by that. And I think to do that really well is really not an easy task. I thought Fulham did it reasonably well, but they still got undone. And I think what Southampton tried to do is basically try and have 5 in midfield, shut down that midfield area so we couldn't do much with the ball and try and kill the game in that area, try and get into the spaces behind in the hope that we would kind of keep pushing and pressing them. And it just didn't work because they couldn't get out because our press was ridiculous in that first 20 minutes especially. And I think it goes to show as well, not only did we do the things we needed to do brilliantly well, but also that Howe is aware of how other teams have kind of tried to work us out a little bit. And he's already planned around that. Like he's already one step ahead. And I just think that just shows a great tactical awareness, but also just great football understanding, I suppose, of the circumstance and situation.
Absolutely. Yes, good comment by BT there. The only time we did not want to get VAR involved. I mean, the referee was incapable of going to VAR until it came out. Dan, couple of questions for you, mate. Firstly, are you going to renege on your comments about Shaw Longstaff being slower than the North Shields ferry? And secondly, Callum Wilson, mate. Callum Wilson, I want to talk a little bit about him. But yeah, take the Longstaff one first, mate. Come on, you got to get it.
You know what, right? Credit where it's due to Sean Longstaff because he has been really good. Yes. I still think he is perhaps compared to some midfielders in the league half a yard slow. If he wasn't, and he also, I mean, obviously he has clearly improved his shooting since the last time he had a big chance. I think that's all the chatting to Alan Shearer he's done maybe. But if he was a half a yard faster and didn't maybe lose the ball sometimes as much in the middle in transition, which he has been liable to doing, he'd actually be a very, very complete midfielder because he grafts and he runs and he never stops and he can pick a pass out and has actually got a lot of technical ability. So I'll give credit where it's due because certainly after how he was under the previous manager, when obviously and he had that injury that he was let's be honest, god awful. He's come back and he's done really well. So credit to him.
Wilson, just before you answer the Wilson one. So looking at Wilson, so 0 shots on target, 1 shot off target, 2 dribble attempts, only completed 1, and a 57% passing percentage. So how did you think Wilson did last night? I know what I think, but what do you think, mate?
I just think it's time to start Isak. I mean, I don't think he will
100%.
start at the weekend because I feel like he might be concussed after that.
Yeah.
Lord Prowse shot struck him in the face, and I think obviously that's why he went off about 5 minutes later or so, because that would have hurt.
Yeah, that was a bad one. Yeah,
but I think if that wasn't the case, I think he runs more. He's got more energy. Wilson seems to have lost half a yard. He doesn't press very much compared to those around him. He seems a bit lazy, in my fault, to be honest. From the way I'm looking at, I know that's a comment from BT there, but honestly, I disagree. He didn't he runs at times, but not as much as he used to. I mean, obviously, perhaps this illness he's had is lingering on a little bit, but I don't know. He just doesn't look the same. And I know form is temporary, and we all hope that he'll come back. But I think for now, he perhaps needs a rest, and I think Isak should be starting.
Dan, that cold mate, you were badass. You were dead nice to everybody before you had that cold, mate. You were badass, Dan. Badass, Dan.
I get a cold and I just start slagging everybody off, honestly.
What are your symptoms? I'm a complete bastard. That's my symptoms. I've only enjoyed that. Dan, just getting your take on Wilson. I agree with Dan. I thought he struggled yet again, mate. And he just seems to have lost that zip that he uses to get by defenders. I don't know what's going on with him, mate.
Yeah, I do. We said the same last night as well. I wonder if he's maybe got something, or this illness, like you said, is lingering. I hope he hasn't got what Dan's got, because obviously he'll be screwed then, won't he? But
it'll be horrible to everybody.
Exactly, miserable bastard. No, I'm joking, Dan. I also think we've got to be realistic in the situation. You know, we've at the minute we've got 2 out-and-out strikers at the football club, and they're going to go through a spell like this. It's going to happen, unfortunately. It happens to all strikers. I sort of disagree with Dan in the sense that I wouldn't say he looked lazy. I think he certainly, I agree, didn't have that same kind of verve, if you like, that he's had previously. My biggest frustration with him is when the balls were kind of being played out wide and we're kind of doing some intricate stuff there, I wanted to see him on his toes. I want to see him moving around, or at least making a burst into the box, or dragging a defender out of or something. And he was just kind of like almost bouncing around on the penalty spot, hoping it would kind of fall to him, or it'd land straight on his head or whatever, rather than kind of being a bit more, I don't know if dynamic is maybe the right word, but I don't know. I think these sort of players go through these sort of spells. He is a little bit of a streaky player, I would say, to an extent. So I think that's just the way he is. But I'm certainly not going to be overly critical of him. I think he's made a huge difference for us. He's massive for us. With all that said, I would agree with Dan in that in an ideal world, I would have Isak playing on the weekend. But obviously, we don't know what the situation is there.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, one player who won't be playing, Mark, is Bruno, obviously after the red card. So Bruno, everyone in the ground was confused as to whether that red card was just cancelled out, would be in the final and everything else. But he's obviously going to miss 3 games, Mark. I believe they are West Ham, Bournemouth and Liverpool are the next 3 games. Then he should be back for the final. I suppose a big question is, because everything goes through Bruno for us, he's so integral to this team. How do you think we'll change it? And do you think we might even see Anthony Gordon get in the side, Joe Linton drop back in the midfield? What do you think we're going to do without Bruno?
I think that's possibly the most likely. You're going to miss him sitting in the middle. I think you probably will see Sean drop into that middle role. I think he's probably the more like you've got the players to go wide either side. So you then have Joe Linton probably to play one side. I mean, you could bring Miggy back into that midfield. He's going to be a workhorse to work, from one side. But you could equally do the same with Willock and bring him into that midfield trio as well. Then you've got Miggy and probably Anthony Gordon to play as those wide forwards. So the options are there. It's not. I think had this happened a couple of weeks ago, when you lose Bruno for a significant length of time like this, there's not panic on, but all of a sudden your options are severely limited at that point, because then you're reliant probably on Jacob Murphy playing, who's not going to give you anything going forward. Who equally, is the happiest man to have ever been substituted as a substitute
weird,
after
wasn't it?
half an hour.
Mate, honestly,
unbelievably happy.
I think Dan could call Jacob Murphy an arsehole with his badass cold, and he'd go, "Sorry about that, Dan. See you later." And he just kind of walk away.
I've genuinely never seen anything like it. For a player to come on and then get subbed themselves and to come off absolutely buzzing himself, it was just bizarre.
Yeah,
but fair play, he's just loving it at the moment, isn't he? So, but yeah, I think you look at that, and I think you get those three up front. You bring Joe and the two Joes back into midfield and play from that. Gives you plenty of legs getting forward. That's for sure. Definitely. And they will work hard coming back as well. We've seen that from both of them, how hard they're willing to work to come back and help out with the defensive work too.
Absolutely. Dan, how weak are we without Bruno, mate? Mark's made a real good case there for a lot of players coming in, maybe a little bit of a change around. Joe Litton, I like Joe Litton back in midfield personally myself, in the front three. I think a lot of people agree. But have we got enough to win those next 3 games or get results in the next 3 games, you think, without Bruno?
I don't see why not, because we've won without him before. I know obviously he is integral in the sense that the way we play now, but when he first came to the club, he obviously Howard didn't really put him in for a few weeks and just had him making substitute appearances, and we were still winning games then.
Yeah. So
I'm sure we can adapt without him. But my main worry is more the fact, obviously, with the lack of sort of options, how tired will these players get? Because you can see they get a little bit leggy.
Yeah, I thought Botman looked tired. Last night.
But as I say, I think I'm happy to see Joe Litton drop back into midfield. Of course, the role where he was revolutionised originally, alongside Willock, that gives you sort of those two up and down the pitch, and then have Longstaff as the sort of holding deep a little bit more, and then up front, whoever it be through the middle, whether it be Wilson or Isak, depending on whether Isak's fit. And then the wings, whether that be St. Maximin, Gordon, Almiron, Murphy, etc. I think, as I say, it can work. I'd echo what Mark says. So, yes, he will be a miss because of his ability, and we all know how good he is. But it's not like we can't win without him, because we have done in the past.
Yeah. Dai, would you agree, mate? Last word on Bruno?
A bit. I think my main concern, to be honest, is more about the lack of depth elsewhere now. If one of the other 3 gets injured or something happens or suspended or whatever, then I think that raises a bigger concern. And I think to go with that, I also think that you're going to rely on those other 3, the 2 Joes and Longstaff, to be. They're basically going to have to play 90 minutes in the next 3 games, and
and big games as well, tough games against
exactly.
Tough teams.
So I do think Willock especially looked a bit leggy by the time he came off as well. So he's also going to have another 3 full 90s in him. So that's the side of it that worries me. I think we're more than capable of winning without Bruno, and I think we will go ahead and do well in these next few games without Bruno. But I think it's the knock-on effect that might have.
Yeah, it's a massive opportunity for Anderson to step up, lads, isn't it? If Anderson can step up, and I don't know if he's ready yet, though. I mean, I was disappointed. We're going to come on the transfer window in a minute, but I was disappointed we couldn't get a midfielder over the line before the deadline. I know there was talk about Conor Gallagher, but Chelsea would be arseholes and they wouldn't deal with us and all that kind of stuff. But this is a massive opportunity for Elliot Anderson to try and do something. In a word, lads, do you think he's ready, or do you think he needs to go on loan?
From my point of view, Initially, I thought he looked like he could do a job this season. I think he's going to have to now. I think if you to give some of those players a few minutes off, if that's a chance at the end of games. The bonus for Newcastle is that they've only got a game a week now. So it's Saturday up to the final, isn't it? So it's not a heavy workload in terms of that, but they are 3 tough games. You've got a West Ham side that is coming back into some form. You've got Liverpool who are going to be fighting to get back up the table, and a Bournemouth side that's scrapping for their life. So they're not going to be easy. None of the games are. But I think you're right. I think he has to probably step up if he's given the chance. Come into that midfield or come into the forward sort of area and really make a name for himself now and really put in the work and use that quality that we know he's got in his locker. But he's going to have to grab an opportunity to sort of state, yes, I can be your first sub. Do you know what I mean? He's be the first name off the bench, and you use that time well. But time will tell whether he's actually given that opportunity yet. But I think, talking to your point about him going out on loan, I think that was probably the best option for him to have found a loan move to give him some more minutes under his belt. But he's obviously staying, so he's going to have to make that first change his own.
Yeah, what do you think, lads? Dan or Di, either one of you? Do you think Anderson's ready to step up?
Go on, Di, after you.
No, go on, you go, mate.
I was going to say, I was a bit disappointed with how he played in the previous rounds of the League Cup.
Yeah,
against Palace
and Sheffield Wednesday as well. He didn't look great against them either.
I thought these are chances for him to show, what level he's at the moment. And he didn't really step up to the plate as much as perhaps we would have liked him to, which is a little bit disappointing. So how much we can rely on him as a substitute remains to be seen at the moment. I'm not so sure. As Mark says, he has got ability there, but I'm yet to see it at this stage, on this level, I should say.
I agree. Di, if he was Welsh, you'd be all over him, but he's not. So
very true.
Very true.
Do you know what? I think oddly, I think part of the reason people are willing to give him time is because he is the local lad.
He's a local boy.
I wonder if he wasn't. If he was Welsh, whilst I'd be the only one who would be standing up for him. So,
possibly.
I think for me, look, he's a decent footballer. I don't think there's any question about that. I certainly don't think he's ready. For me, at this stage, I don't think he's Premier League ready. I think he should have and could have gone on loan, but again, obviously that would have left us very light in midfield. So I suppose he had to stay almost. But for the big thing for me is I just don't think he's quick enough in a couple of ways, in a literal speed sense, but also the way he kind of moves with the ball and his speed of thought and the way he kind of pings the ball about. You always feel like he wants an extra touch on the ball, and I think he's just not. He's not quite ready. And I'm sure if he comes in, he'll do a job and he'll get backed by everyone. I have no doubt of that. But for me, I think that was the only thing that I was frustrated with in the transfer window, is that letting Wood and Shelvey go and not really replacing either of them does leave us a little bit light up front and in that, especially in that central midfield area now that Bruno has got this 3-match suspension. So, but there are they a perfect segue. In fact, I knew this was
wonderful segue, mate. Honestly, I'm just going to take a week off, mate. You are starting to ride alongside me in them segues, mate. But yeah, it's a great way to talk about the window. I think that's right. I tend to agree with you. I think that an attacking option and a midfielder. I think we needed a midfield even before Shelvey decided to leave. Just a little bit on Shelvey, lads. I thought it was a real touch of class by the club to get him on the pitch at half-time. He had a great reception. I know the new lads come on. We'll get into that in a second. But the reception for Shelvey was brilliant. It was quite humorous because everyone was clapping him. And it was such love, and Shelvey was kind of like this. And he didn't hear all the little conversations in the ground going, "Oh, well done, John Joe. I know I've called you twat at times, but well done." There was so much of that going on around me, which I thought was absolutely class. But going on to the new lads, Mark, a brilliant reception for the new lads. I think the moment and the atmosphere and everything about the pre-game, it was a great time to get them young lads out. And for Anthony Gordon, who's been constantly told since he's come here, the fans are a bit iffy about you and this, for him to hear the Geordies break out and sing, Anthony Gordon, must have just pumped him up so much. I mean, he'll be gagging for a game on Saturday. I did feel sorry for Harris Nashby, by the way, but I think for Gordon, he'll be absolutely bouncing. So,
yeah, I think you're right. Look, it was never going to be anything different, really. Yes, there are going to be players that the fans that have their reservations about him coming in. That will stay, but while they're in the ground, while he's on the pitch, he will get back to the hilt until hopefully not, but until he does something stupid. But if he comes in and plays the way that we know he can, he will be absolutely adored. But coming on to that, and we talked about this on Monday and probably the weekend as well, when we talked about the signing, that you walk out on that pitch last night in front of 52,000 in that sort of cauldron of an atmosphere already. It's just a great way to come and introduce yourself to the fans at that point. And I think he'll be itching now to get on the field to start. I think he probably gets to start a lot quicker than you probably anticipated, because I do think he might come in from the start of the weekend now. I don't think he would have done, but I think that's a real possibility now.
And them two as signings as a whole. I mean, we all, there seems to be a desire in the club to have that replacement for Trippier. And I think Ashby is somebody they've been after for a long time. I think that's been quite evidential, isn't it? We picked these targets a long time ago, and we relentlessly go for them. Gordon was clearly one, and Ashby was another. So how would you rate those two buys, Mark? Do you think that's essential for the squad to get them in as the two buys?
Yeah, I think they're both excellent. We've touched on this before, but the club are identifying them well in advance. We know those leaks and things that have come out, those rumours that have come out of the club for the last almost a year on those two especially.
Yeah,
but it was the same with Botman. That was a long time to get that done. I think Isak was probably in a similar sort of vein. That wasn't a knee-jerk reaction to anything. These are players that are being identified as players to come in, improve the squad, improve the first team, and the club will bide their time and get them when the deal is right for them. They're not willing to walk away from them just because of other clubs' interest. They're willing to stay and get the deal that they want. And they've obviously identified Ashby well in advance and knowing the type of player that he is, from their scouting. And he looks like the sort of perfect backup to come in and learn from Trippier and take over that mantle in a year or two's time once Trippier starts to maybe step to the side a little bit.
Actually, Dan, just your take on it, and with your journalistic contacts, mate, was there anybody that nearly signed? Is there anybody you can disclose with your inside knowledge?
I don't think anyone was realistically very close.
No,
on the last couple of days or anything like that. Obviously, the two they wanted it and were Gordon and Ashby this window. As you mentioned before, Conor Gallagher, but I don't think he would. I think if he had come in, it would have been more of a knee-jerk reaction, to be honest. To sort of the fact that we were maybe a bit light in midfield, but I don't think he's someone who we'd actually realistically have wanted as a long-term target. And I still think James Maddison remains a long-term target. I think he might be looked at once again in the summer, but I don't think January was the window to bring him in because, the price would have been inflated. I know obviously his contract's running down, but Leicester would have wanted a lot in this sort of time when they're not having the best of seasons, so they probably would have.
I think they're idiots. Like Leicester are morons. They could have got 60 million quid for them.
No, I agree. That's the thing. I think if we'd offered that, and if they didn't take it, I think that's more fool them because it's the price for him will drop dramatically in the summer as his contract runs down. But no, I don't think anyone else was realistically close. I think that was it, to be honest. And you know what? I'm happy, as I say, maybe we are a midfielder light, but we've got another winger, another forward player, and we've got another covering defender. So both going forward and defending, we're covered for. I think it's just that midfield three that we're a little bit light on.
Absolutely. Di, this is a corker. I wish Bellingham had come, mate. Did you? Was I meant to pick him up from the airport, Dan? I don't know if he was coming, was he?
Yeah. He was on his way, mate. I saw him having a Greg's pasty last night after the match.
That sealed the deal. That sealed the deal.
Exactly. Do you like Maddison, mate? Are you keen on Maddison, Chris?
Mate, do you know what? I think he's an all right player, mate. I must admit, it's something that I
wouldn't. You've never mentioned it before.
You've never mentioned it. Well, it's good to.
I'm going to be skipping down Whitley Bay with him. Say, look, James, the sea. Ooh.
Yeah. Do you know what? All in, I'm happy with what we've got, lads. I think I agree that I wish that we'd got another midfielder in. I still think getting rid of Wood and not getting another centre forward in, especially if Isak is concussed, I also think is maybe a bit naive. But do you know what? Look, we've said all the way through this, and I've, especially in our group back and forth, I've been a huge advocate of Eddie Howe knows what he's doing. And there is a reason that Eddie Howe is manager of this football club. We're third in the league and we're going to a cup final. And I'm sat here chatting to you three. So what do I know? So if Eddie says that he's happy enough with what he's got, I reckon I'll take Eddie's word for it.
Well, to be fair, I think he's got enough credit in the bank. But I do think the plan is what I loved about Eddie Howe was my dad actually told me this because he was watching it on the telly. They said to Eddie Howe at the end of the game, all right, okay, is it focus on the final or is it fourth? And he just grabbed the microphone and he went, both. I love that. I love that. Eddie's starting to change from like the mild-mannered reporter to the like, no, right, I'm gonna go for it. And I think in the summer, I think we go big in the summer. I think James is Dan's right. James Maddison is going to be the first one. So I've got James in the brain. The first one that we bring in, and I think there'll be more off the back of that. And we'll have European football, I'm pretty certain, in the summer next season. So we're going to need a bigger squad and quality as well. So moving on to the last topic, lads, we've got the Hammers coming up, as we mentioned already. A couple of changes there. We've talked a little bit about the lineup already. Mark, just coming to you first. Off the back of this buzz, there's not a danger of a bit of a dip, is there? Do you think we'll continue on?
Well, you hope not. I think if you look back at the way that the game panned out against Fulham, wasn't it, after the Leicester game, there was that dip
was a bit flat, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was. We said this after the game, that the atmosphere felt flat, the game felt flat at that point, and you hope that obviously this will just spur the side on to go, do you know what? No, we've got to a cup final. Now we can park that. We've got 3 weeks until that takes place. We now have to focus. And Eddie said that, isn't he? He's not focused on the final now. He's focused on West Ham. So he was going home last night to keep up his preparation for the weekend, because that's the next. Essentially, now that's the next cup final, isn't it? Because now you've got to go, play West Ham, get a result there, keep that momentum going for the challenge for the top four. And West Ham are in a little bit better form now. It sort of includes the cup games, but they've won 3 of their last 4 in all competitions, isn't it? They maybe won 4 of their last. Yeah, it's 3 of their last 4. Only lost 1 in the last 5. So they are picking up some form. Jarrod Bowen starts to look a little bit better than he has done for much of the season. In fact, all season, to be honest with you.
He's not been the good same player as he was before, has he?
I think their league's position is a little bit false at the moment. I think they will pick up and get back comfortably into that mid-table. Now I think that will turn around. So it's definitely not one to sleep on. So the Newcastle are going to have to be on their A game again and just make sure that they keep up that momentum for keeping in the top 4 and in those European places.
Yeah. Do you think we'll get the win, mate? Just a quick prediction.
Jared, I have a sneaky feeling this one might be a draw.
Splinters.
Yeah, I do think it might be a draw. I think I'll probably go something like 1-1. I think 1-1. Newcastle will miss Bruno's nous in that midfield. I think that might take a little bit of getting used to again, because not that they're reliant on him, but there is that element that he does unlock some doors really, really well. But it's it wouldn't shock me if Newcastle came out and won 2 or 3-0 either. So it's one of those. I just think the little bit of a come down from last night, but I'm sure Eddie won't let that happen.
I wish you'd come down off that fence.
I was going to say, that's the worst prediction I've ever heard. He said we might win, we might draw.
I predict? I'm not even sure. I did give a prediction there. It's
the only thing you didn't say, we might lose as well. You've got all bases covered, mate.
Mark, don't ever become a weatherman. It might rain, but you never know. It might be sunny. The wind might blow out. I don't know. It's whatever's going to
I can't be wrong in that regard, can't I? So if I give every possibility, I can't get it wrong. There you go.
You can't be bloody vague. I'm going to rename you Mr. Vague. That'll be your new name.
Never take any betting tips off me. That is definitely the for sure.
PK is the gambler, but Stu makes a good point there, Dan, that West Ham might not have any strikers. Just give us your kind of prediction. And obviously, it's clear that Longstaff is better than Declan Rice now, mate, isn't it? That debate is back open now, isn't it, Dan?
Here we go again. What was that? 2019.
It was lockdown.
Yeah, I'm going to try and be a bit less vague than Mark in my thoughts.
Won't be hard. That won't be hard, Dan.
A bit more precise and concise. I think Newcastle can win this game.
Yeah,
but I think, like similar games recently, it will be a low-scoring affair. A bit like, as Dan says there, Fulham, like Fulham, a 1-0.
Yeah. 1-0.
I think our squad is better than theirs. I think that's quite obvious. They do have some good players, though, so that's why I think it'll only be low-scoring, because I think they will provide a bit of a challenge. but I do think eventually we will have enough to break them down, and I think it's a chance for other players to step up to the hilt when Bruno's missing. Obviously Gordon might come in and have his debut, so it's a chance for him, and it's a chance perhaps for Joelinton to come back into the midfield and play that role again, and then allow someone else to push further, whether that be Gordon or whether that be St. Maximin or Murphy, etc. So a bit like Fulham, I think it'll be nervy and a bit, but I think it'll be a low-scoring game. But I think a 1-0 win, or perhaps a 2-1 win will come out of it, and that, Mark, is how you do it.
That's how you do it. Badass Dan has just slayed you there, mate. That cool, my God. But it's like, it's like that scene in Superman 3 when he's fighting himself, Dan. You just like the badass version of yourself, mate. I love it. Stu saying Paqueta shite, Stu. We'll bury him. He's rubbish, man. He's bloody rubbish. So just getting your take on this, Di. Do you think we win this game, mate? Are you the same? Do you think it's going to be a tight one?
Well, you've jinxed it now, haven't you? Paqueta's going to score the winner in a 1-0 loss, isn't he? This is all your fault.
Or maybe he will, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll shoot, maybe don't, as Mark would say.
Anything could happen. To me, I take from what Mark said earlier. They have got some decent results in cups, but if you want to look at their league form, they've also only won 1 in 5.
Yeah, it's dreadful in the league, to be fair. So that's
there's both sides of that. They've only scored 17 goals this season in 20 games in the league. They've conceded 25. So, I think we're just going to have too much for them. I think it's as simple as that. I think they're quite a workmanlike side. I think they're quite functional. I think they're in a position where they'll come to us and they'll try just not to lose the game. Which will allow us to have all the ball and all the possession. For me, I think we'll get after them. I think we have nothing to worry about defensively. As someone has said in the comments here, there's no way Pope concedes 2 games in a row. I agree with Dan saying that, Dan Kane. I think for me, I think we win this game 2-0.
Yeah, good shout, mate. I'm very much of a similar vein. I don't know whether they'll get a goal or not. I'll go 2-0 as well. I think we've got enough to beat these. I think Gordon might get a start, lads, as well. I think depending on how well he does in training and how pumped he is for it, I think Howe might unleash him at home in front of the crowd and let him maybe get that goal, make that impact, and start off right, in front of the home crowd. So I agree with badass Dan as well. I think we got too much in the squad. Just because I'm scared of you, really, Dan. That's the reason I'm agreeing. But I think we got too much. Psycho-wise, we've got too much in the squad, I think, to be troubled by West Ham. As Di says there, the league form is absolutely honking. But I mean, I think one thing is clear that. I think the squad will be tested massively over the coming weeks, in the lead up to the final. We just hope, as Di said earlier, that we don't get any injuries, and there's no issues there. Dan said he thinks that ASM starts. I'm not sure. I think he showed a little bit of his kind of frustration the other night when he didn't track back enough, and I think that's still an issue for Eddie Howe. Mark's got one more of his Perla stats he'd like to throw out because he's pulled the splinters out of his arse and we've made too much fun of him. He wants to knock it out the park before we log off.
just back up what Di was saying before. West Ham have won 1 game away from home in the league all season, and that was back in August. They've won. I think they've drawn 2 and lost the rest. So form on paper, it would tell you Newcastle should win this. I'm going to go that way. I'm going to go 1-0 Newcastle. I'm going to come off the fence. I'm going to pick up my balls and I'm going to go. I'm going to go. Yes, there you go. 1-0 Newcastle.
Big up, Dan. Did you private message him? Is he scared of you as well? But you frightened everybody.
I've literally just Mark. If you open your phone right now, there's going to be a threatening message there.
just one word from Dan. Agree. Win. Just badass Dan. Absolutely love it. Absolutely.
Oh baby.
Yeah, Dan said the same. We can easily win, lose, or draw till the end of the season. You still
would never be wrong. There you go.
Yeah, it's a safe bet, but that's a great way to end it, mate. We'll let Mark drop the mic on that one there. But this has been a cracking show as always. Love the comments, everybody. It really helps the episode flow. As I mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We're on nearly 2,500. So you can help us get there. We've had a brilliant first year as Evermore, much like Newcastle United as well. We're very much in the ascendancy, so we'd love you to come on board. We're all going to go and get our suits measured with Dan Byrne and Dan is going to go and start the next series of Afterlife because he's a bad ass. So we're going to leave him to go do that. Have a great evening, what everybody's doing, and we'll catch you next time at Evermore. See you guys.
See you guys.
All right.